Hello and welcome to the Kopala TV main news. And in stories making headlines today, NDC challenges government to tell the nation what agreement they have made with Mopani copper mines. ZCID condemns political parties' intolerance behavior. JCTR appeals to government to ensure social protection programs are sealed up. And in international news, coronavirus in Australia, Melbourne returns to lockdown as cases surge. Join us in a bit after this. To present the Kopala TV main news, my name is Monze Mwinga. The National Democratic Congress Party, NDC, has challenged government to come out and tell the nation what agreement they have made with Mopani Copper Mines MCM. NDC Vice Spokesperson Chipoka Mulenga said to Kopala TV that it's clear there is something that has been agreed behind the curtains and the public do not know about. Mr. Mulenga said if MCM foreign management has failed to run the mines, Zambia has competent mining experts that can run the mine. The party is challenging government to allow them to give chance to the competent locals that can profitably run MCM without sending any employees and contractors home.
The government must come out clean on what engagements they've had with Mopani and agreements they've concluded on regarding the placing of the mine on care and maintenance and reinstating all the employees that were sent at home. Not very long ago, the NDC, through the President, Dr. Chimbaka Mbwili, engaged the Minister of Mines and his counterpart from Finance on how best the mining industry can contribute to the economic development of this country, particularly Mopani itself, and why Mopani did not have the legitimate right to place the mine on care and maintenance. We still insist, and we continue to protest this idea. Mopani pretended to have brought back every employee from the letters of forced leave they gave them. Apparently, we still have a number in hundreds of contractor employees that are still in the streets, that are still at home without work and without pay. The government must take this issue very seriously. Already we are hearing whispers, which are coming louder and louder by the day, that Mopani is stubborn enough and still want to go ahead and place the mine on care and maintenance and send even these permanently employed employees on forced leave. This act, I can assure you, and as NDC, we assure you, government and the Zambian people, that it will bring untold suffering in Chingola, in Kitwe, Mufulira, and the entire Copper Belt. Because it is not only the employees that will lose jobs. The Chamber of Commerce will be affected negatively. The contractors and suppliers that are doing stable business with Mopani, the local contractors and suppliers, they will be cut off completely. So it is unacceptable for Mopani to give the unjustifiable reasons that they brought forward as reasons to place the mine on care and maintenance. As NDC, we challenge the government. If Mopani foreign management has failed to run the mine, as NDC, we've got names of local experts that are willing to take up the reins of Mopani in a profitable way and expand the mine and attract more investment and bring more labor on board. Therefore, we implore this government, do not place this mine, do not allow the placing of this mine on care and maintenance. Preserve the jobs that are in Mufulira. That was the reason why you have voted for.
The Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue, ZCID, has strongly condemned the political intolerance exhibited by the UPND in Monze during the tour of President Edgar Lungu. ZCID chairperson Jackson Silavwe says Zambia should not only be sacred to one political party but to all Zambians. However, the ZCID has equally condemned reactions from the PF members that have threatened to reciprocate the intolerant Monze UPND members. And ZCID has urged the two political parties to de-escalate this political intolerance with immediate effect and find progressive ways of resolving their long-held differences.
The PF and the UPND should de-escalate the intolerance immediately. Intolerance begets more intolerance. Violence begets more violence. An eye for an eye will make the whole country blind. ZCID strongly condemns the political intolerance exhibited by the UPND members and supporters in Monze during the tour of President Edgar Lungu. No part of this blessed country should be sacred to only one political party. Zambia is not for political parties. Zambia is for all Zambians. The Zambian people have time and again frowned upon such kinds of politics. Zambia is bigger than any political party. In the same vein, we equally condemn the reactions from some PF leaders, members and supporters that have threatened to reciprocate the Monze intolerance to Mr. Hakainde Hichilema and the UPND members in their perceived strongholds. Such acts of retaliation are a danger to the peace of our beloved nation and urge the PF rank and file to exercise maximum restraint. PF must be a custodian of our nation's peace, especially being a ruling party and yielding state power. PF should take the high road. Instead of anger, PF should show love. Instead of intolerance, PF should show democracy. Instead of politics of regionalism, PF should show national unity. We urge both the PF and the UPND to de-escalate this political intolerance with immediate effect and find progressive ways of resolving their long-held differences through honest engagement.
Meanwhile, the United Party for National Development Party Minds and Freedom Fighter Chairman Percy Chanda says the peaceful people of Monze were just provoked, adding that the UPND warned before the hate speech and that tribal remarks will one day backfire.
We have warned before that hate speech and tribal remarks will one day backfire. However, this advice has been ignored. Instead, people have been busy outshining each other on hate speech and tribalism. How come ministers and PF officials are allowed to issue tribe and hate speeches with impunity? Why and who authorized the removal of UPND posters in Monze? PF should blame its provincial minister who ordered the peaceful people of Monze to line up on the streets to welcome the president despite COVID-19. They say, Mumbwa itile mpashi no kumubasha mubwa. PF made and drank its own poison.
In case you have just tuned in, you are watching the Kopala TV main news. Join us after this set of commercials.
Kopala TV, Kopala ya buena mumwesu Kopala. Kopala TV.
My number. Ishusho limentindeya za yama oji orushani. Kopala TV.
Yama oji. Imuntu wandi Yesu. Fwebene by fwebene. Fwebene. Naidede kalasti. Iyako Kopala futi yaba Kopala.
Manje kuikatashani yoina. Naena ya kuntambo oro ni jiviji.
Wala iwe. Ile sango patopsta decoder. Channel 98 paku. Ninshi yatuvira. Puta mensa ninshi yalila ni efizimbwi. Kule izimoli la femunjazi.
So yuri landati Kopala TV tayawanga ya boiling channel wako watu wachila tamba fe wino kwangwa filamba fyambo kupona uruwa mfotoro bantu ifuma channel wefingi fyamo pura fi
alula iwe Kopala TV ni Kopala futhi kuchalo no shali mokuba molasti elo ile sansa Kopala yonse my number ukwambila fipa my number pandula lwansha kito paketi ke mufudila mufuken chingola pa chingo begi na chidila iwe ni Kopala TV liko
muntu wanja pakushongora fika top star we tata nde tambera pofi Kopala TV pachani 98 apa kude konkana ne charo bamba to bamba ni pate after pate wo Party after party. Whoa. Ha ha. Kopala TV. OG. Yeah. Kopala TV. Available on Topstar Channel 98. Kopala TV. Entertainment just for you.
Looking for an opportunity to grow your business? Well, Kopala TV has good news for all small-scale businesses. You can now advertise on Kopala TV's Makwebo. Bonseba na mayo na bashtata. Iseni mulangishe amakwebo yenu pamutengo uachepa nga 100 kwacha. Yes, you heard right. For as low as 100 kwacha, your business will get its peak. Whatever the business, we will advertise. All you need to do is send a text of what your business offers, indicating the name, location, and contact details to the number below. Payment for the advertising spot can be made through MTN mobile money on the number down below. Makwebo, make your business known.
One Zambia, one nation.
Zambia chalo chesu. Stop political violence.
I am Zambian. I am against political violence.
I am Zambian, and I say disarm all cadres now.
It's not one Zambia if we kill each other. Stop the violence.
It's not good killing one another as Zambians. Stop the violence.
Let's keep the peace in our streets. Let's work to stay one Zambia.
It's not one Zambia if we kill each other. Stop the violence.
Ndimwina Zambia, lekeni ukulwa pamulandu wa politics. Welcome back. The Jesuit Center for Theological Reflection, JCTR, has appealed to the government to ensure that social protection programs are scaled up and ring-fenced throughout this COVID-19 period. JCTR says it has consistently recorded above 7,000 kwacha since January 2020, yet it remains a sad reality that very few individuals in Zambia earn incomes close to this amount. JCTR Acting Social and Economic Development SED Manager Ms. Muchimba Siamachoka says it is evident that the poor with no income to keep themselves afloat will only be pushed further into poverty.
The JCTR Basic Needs and Nutrition Basket for the month of June 2020 stood at 7,060 kwacha.8 ingwe, a total reduction of 134.8 from the month of May 2020, which stood at 7,000 kwacha, 195.6 ingwe. Reductions in the baskets were noted in the following items: vegetables, pounded groundnuts, onion, carpenter, sweet potatoes, other fruits, tomato, bananas, and the price of cooking oil. From the non-food but essential items, the price of charcoal reduced from 332 kwacha to 322 kwacha.40 gwe, and this is for 290 kg bags from the preceding month. On the other hand, increases in the basket have been recorded in the prices of cassava flour that rose sharply to 211.75 from 70.97 kwacha in May, a difference of 140 kwacha.78 in Gwe, and soya pieces that also moved upwards. It is worth noting that the reduction in the prices of some of the items in the basket, especially the agricultural produce, is attributed to the increased supply as a result of the harvest season.
Zitukila Consortium have shared concerns that the 2021 general elections may be devoid of electoral integrity and credibility, going by the behavior of the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, and some stakeholders. Zitukila Consortium Executive Director Nicholas Piri says earlier this year the ECZ unilaterally decided to cancel the practice of independent observation of the printing of ballot papers for the 2021 general elections by political parties and civil society organizations. Mr. Piri says the Commission stands to maintain its decision against stakeholders' advice to extended voter registration to more than 30 days must be reversed, saying the Commission will not manage to capture more than 6.7 million voters in only a month. However, the unguarded pronouncements from government officials, including ministers and the head of state, has created doubts about the credibility of the electorals and governance systems.
As the Zitukule Consortium, we are concerned that the 2021 general elections may be devoid of electoral integrity and credibility going by the behavior of the Electoral Commission of Zambia and some stakeholders. Earlier this year, the ECZ unilaterally decided to cancel the practice of independent observation of the printing of ballot papers for the 2021 general elections by political parties and civil society. While the Commission argued that it was unable to meet the cost for supporting an observation mission, the practice still remains a vital and an integral ingredient for confidence building in the electoral management process in Zambia, where the integrity of the electoral body is questionable. Several stakeholders have requested the ECZ to reconsider its stance on this matter. Interestingly, ECZ has stuck to its own wisdom. In whose interest is the ECZ working? Has the Commission considered the cost of civil strife resulting from a disputed election result? Secondly, the ECZ has also maintained against stakeholders' advice that the voter registration for 2021 will be for 30 days only. The previous voter roll had more than 6.7 million voters. ECZ is reportedly targeting to capture 9 million new voters for the 2021 voter register, all this in 30 days. This translates into 300,000 voters in 8 hours per day, or 37,500 voters per hour, or 625 voters per minute, assuming that there is no breakdown in the registration system at any given point in the said 30 days. Is this a joke or a comedy? ECZ must be clear on this matter. Are they talking about a new voter roll altogether, or it's an upgrade of the existing voter roll, in which case the Commission would be looking for about 3 million new voters or less? Thirdly, the continued and unguarded pronouncements from government officials, including ministers and the head of state, creates doubts about the credibility of our electoral and governance system. For example, Minister Davis Mwila Chama suggests that invoking constitutional provision as provided in Article 52 to challenge the eligibility of President Lungu would result into civil unrest. How can a lawful act precipitate an unlawful act? What message is Minister Mwila giving to the men and women in uniform under his charge? In the same vein, it is not long ago when the president stated in no uncertain terms that he would not give up power even if citizens voted him out of office. Isn't this treasonous and therefore unlawful? Is the system daring or testing citizens' tolerance levels? Are these statements coincidental and from without? In view of the foregoing, we hold the view that the 2021 elections may not be credible, a situation which is likely to be met with fierce resistance and pushback from stakeholders and citizens. We wish to call on the ECZ and government officials, therefore, as well as other stakeholders, to draw lessons from a poorly managed 2016 election, as well as the developing electoral trends in the region and across the globe, in order for us to craft for ourselves a credible electoral system.
The Zambia Alliance of Women, ZAW, has called on non-governmental organizations as well as the private sector to partner with government in alleviating challenges faced among women groups across the country. ZAW Programs Manager Caesar Katebe said that government alone cannot control and cannot manage to curb the challenges without the efforts of other stakeholders. Mr. Katebe has, however, expressed happiness on some women initiatives in sustainable agriculture.
First and foremost, we want to acknowledge the support that has been rendered to these women groups, even to ourselves as Zambia Alliance of Women. We take cognizance of the support that has been rendered by Swedish Embassy through NGCC Basket Fund. But particularly of interest where we are, government has made tremendous support towards these women and vulnerable groups who are viable. And our appeal equally will be that we continue to partner with the government over there so that we can alleviate the sufferings of these women groups. By so doing, we will be ensuring that we attain some of the sustainable development goals, especially as it relates to poverty alleviation. I also should mention that it's been quite a very interesting learning visit in that we've seen how the women are doing in terms of cultivation of various crops in line with climate smart agriculture, in line with ensuring that sustainable agriculture takes center stage in what they are doing, and this is very visible from what we've seen on the ground. There's a lot of cabbage that is being grown, a lot of mixed cropping, tomato, bananas and onions, and this is how it should be. We know that government on its own cannot be able to do everything, but with a collaboration and partnership with non-governmental organizations such as ourselves and cooperating partners, not only the sky is the limit.
And ZAW Executive Director Eda Chimia has commended government through the Ministry of Local Governance for providing social needs such as boreholes to women clubs across the country.
We are here today at this farm for Chileta Women's Club, where I think we have brought farmers from Shivuyunji, Kapyanga Women's Club, Nangoma Women's Club, Kansombo Women's Club, Nawuyuni Women's Club, Zumanana Women's Club, Kwatukseka Women's Club, and Shimbiji Women's Club. We brought them here for a learning visit. This learning visit is very exciting for most of them because they are learning what they can do with like what they can do in gardening and the different types. You can see there's bananas there, there's tomato, there's cabbage, there's more that they are growing around here. So the farmers are actually not just learning, but they are also sharing best practices. You see, I have observed some farmers even challenging that this could even be bigger than what is here because these people have water and all. So this is quite exciting. What we have noted here, I think the support by the local government association, the council, to drill a borehole is so much appreciated. If it could be extended to some of the women clubs that we have mentioned here, it would even do more because we have hardworking women in these clubs.
In case you have just tuned in, you are watching the Kopala TV main news. Join us after this.
Kopala TV, Kopala ya buena buena mumwesu Kopala. Mubante mwekele chalo na tuikwatira Kopala TV.
My number ishusho limentindeaza yama oji orushani Kopala TV
yama oji imuntu wandi yesu fwebene by fwebene fwebene naidede kalasti yako Kopala futi yaba Kopala
manje kuikatashani yoina naena ya kuntambo oro ni jiviji
wala iwe ile sango patop stad koda channel 98 paku ninshi yatobera puta mensa ninshi yalila ni efidimbwe kule izimoli la femunjazi
so yuri ndati Kopala TV tayabanga ya boiling channel wako batu wachila tamba fe wino kwangwa filamba fyambo kupona uruwa mfotoro bantu ifuma chane wefingi fyamo pura fi
alula iwe Kopala TV ni Kopala futhi ele kuchalo no ushali mokuba molasti elo ile sansa Kopala yonse my number ukwambila fepa my number pandula lwansha kito paketi ke mufudila mufuken chingola pa chingo begi na chidila bombo iwe ni Kopala TV iliko.
Muntu wanja pakushongora kufika top star wetata ndetambira pofi Kopala TV pachani o 98 apa kude konkana ne charo bamba to bamba ni pate after pate wo pate after pate wo Kopala TV OG. Kopala TV, available on Topstar Channel 98. Kopala TV, entertainment just for you.
Looking for an opportunity to grow your business? Well, Kopala TV has good news for all small-scale businesses. You can now advertise on Kopala TV's Makwebo. Bonseba na mayo na bashtata. Iseni mulangishe amakwebo yenu pamutengo uachepa nga 100 kwacha. Yes, you heard right. For as low as 100 kwacha, your business will get its peak. Whatever the business, we will advertise. All you need to do is send a text of what your business offers, indicating the name, location, and contact details to the number below. Payment for the advertising spot can be made through MTN mobile money on the number down below. Makwebo, make your business known.
One Zambia, one nation.
Zambia chalo chesu. Stop political violence.
I am Zambian. I am against political violence.
I am Zambian, and I say disarm all cadres now.
It's not one Zambia if we kill each other. Stop the violence.
It's not good killing one another as Zambians. Stop the violence.
Let's keep the peace in our streets. Let's work to stay one Zambia.
It's not one Zambia if we kill each other. Stop the violence.
Ndimwina Zambia, lekeni ukulwa pamulandu wa politics. Welcome back and thank you for staying tuned. And now in foreign news. The number of COVID-19 cases in Africa is on the rise, but in some countries, people still don't believe the pandemic is real. BBC Africa's Yemisi Adegoke went inside a COVID-19 referment ward, Lagos, Nigeria, to see how frontline workers are fighting against the disease, despite living in an environment where many still doubt the presence of the pandemic in the country. We monitored the BBC for more on this story.
Cases of coronavirus are rising on the continent. We've been given exclusive access to a coronavirus response team in Africa's most populous city, Lagos.
And they feel powerless.
It's one of our severe ones that we're paying very, very close attention to.
I was put as dead. I thought it was all over.
But on the streets outside this hospital, some people don't believe this pandemic is real.
Coronavirus is in abroad, not here.
They're lying because I've never seen someone that have the coronavirus in this Nigeria.
It would have been fun if it wasn't so devastating.
Lagos, a bustling and vibrant state that 20 million people call home. It's now the epicenter of Nigeria's coronavirus battle. After a month-long curfew, restrictions are now being eased, but the virus shows no signs of slowing down. These are the doctors and nurses on the front lines. Dr. Iyohe Nakase is the team lead. He's worked in infectious disease for many years, treating illnesses endemic in the region like meningitis. But he says nothing compares to this.
I don't think anybody alive has ever seen anything like this before.
We're now on an isolation unit at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital. Anyone who tests positive for coronavirus is treated here. The patients on this ward vary in age. Some are in their 20s, others middle-aged, a handful are elderly. While some are gradually overcoming the worst symptoms of the virus, others still need oxygen to help them breathe.
How are you doing today, sir? Oh, okay, yeah. Let me check your oxygen levels, eh?
This man is 75, and like many hit hardest by the virus, he has pre-existing health conditions. He was at the hospital for a routine procedure when he collapsed. It turned out to be COVID.
If you see the fall where I fall here, now people come carry me up. You will think they boom.
At least he's conscious now, he can talk and all that, but he's one of our severe ones that we're paying very, very close attention to.
Successive governments have been accused of underfunding healthcare here, and strikes are common. Last month, resident doctors protested the lack of protective equipment, hazard pay, and poor welfare conditions. Medical staff are working long hours. Nigeria's hot and humid climate making the wearing of PPE particularly uncomfortable and exhausting. Staff are so busy they sleep in accommodation on hospital grounds, unable to see their families for weeks on end.
Always, thinking, rolling back, thinking, okay, if we had this, or if we had done this differently, or if this person, if he had come earlier. But there's a sense also of anger, why didn't he come earlier on? Why did he come so late?
One reason why people aren't going for testing or treatment in time is because there is a belief that the virus isn't real or that the scale is being exaggerated. Such rumours gained traction after this video was widely shared online.
This is the isolation center of Kano. Nobody is inside.
It claims to show an abandoned isolation centre with no patients. The government denounced the video, saying it was misleading, but many Nigerians are still sceptical.
Isolation center, people are dancing, eating, there's no corona. I saw it on YouTube now.
We did not see anything like coronavirus. Nigerians are eating. It's real. But we have not seen anybody when they show you that coronavirus is real. You know that our government, they are lying for us, especially Lagos state government, they are lying for us. All the states. I went there. I see the people. I see the people there. They don't even reach. They are 300. It's not real. They are using it to defraud the masses that we are already suffering. If corona is in Africa, in this vicinity, about 30 people are supposed to die to make me convinced.
There's a historical mistrust between some Nigerians and the government, meaning in addition to the belief the virus isn't real, many people aren't adhering to government advice on safety protocols. No one that we spoke to was wearing a face covering or a mask or was adhering to social distancing. These things are mandatory by the Lagos state government, and as the numbers continue to increase, things like this are a big concern. Much of the country's economy is informal. Lockdown measures were devastating for the millions of families relying on a daily wage. Nigerians are eager for things to return to normal. But not following safety advice makes it more and more difficult for medical personnel like Dr. Kase, for whom the pandemic is a daily reality.
This is not just among street people, ignorant people. You have seen this among educated people, people who are well-traveled. So it's an unfortunate sentiment, which I don't know if this is a global thing, but for us here it's a real problem. And I think this will complicate efforts to curb this in our country to a large degree. Sorry, lift your head. Lift your head.
Despite the disbelief outside, the suffering inside the wards is very real.
I was good as dead. I thought it was all over. Don't pray to have it.
This woman has lost her sister to complications stemming from COVID, and now both she and her nephews have been admitted with the virus. She's currently on oxygen, distressed because she's unable to bury her sister.
My sister is the closest sister I have in Lagos. She's gone. I've not buried her yet. Look at me with the two sons. We are here, admitted. I don't know why there's hope for me. I don't know. I'm so sorry.
Patients spend weeks on the ward with the medical personnel and each other as their only company. Many staff carry the weight of what they see with them.
So when you're going home, you're thinking, okay, so this, should we have done this? Of course, then there are those that died. So you get to carry that with you, home really, yeah.
Until now, Africa has been behind the curve, but that's changing, and countries here are bracing themselves for when this pandemic reaches its peak.
5 million residents of the city of Melbourne in Australia have been told to stay at home for 6 weeks amid a surge in coronavirus cases. Victoria State Premier Danielle Andrews announced the lockdown after the state saw 191 new infections, its highest daily number since the pandemic began. Australia has recorded almost 9,000 cases and 106 deaths from the virus. BBC once again.
Now, Melbourne in Australia is back in lockdown because of a spike in COVID cases. In the past 24 hours, it's recorded almost 200 of them. That's its highest recorded daily total. So for the next 6 weeks, the 5 million people who live in Melbourne can only leave their homes for essential purposes. That means work, school, food shopping and caregiving. Here's Victoria's State Premier.
Stay at home means just that. Not stay at your holiday home, not stay at your second home. Your principal place of residence is where you must be, except for the 4 reasons to leave your home. This is, I know, further than we went last time, but we are in many respects in a more precarious, challenging and potentially tragic position now than we were some months ago.
I wanted to show you this video from just before the lockdown came into effect. So this is just ahead of midnight in Melbourne. You can see a huge queue at this Costco supermarket as people try to stock up. We also know there are stricter rules in place for localised outbreaks. This apartment block is one of 9 where residents are banned from leaving. One health official justified the move, calling the building vertical cruise ships. But residents say they weren't given enough notice before the lockdown came into effect and they're struggling to get food delivered. Here's one woman describing her experience.
A lot of people are saying, oh, come on, how did you not have anything, in your pantries and this and that? Let's not forget, the people living in these towers are vulnerable. We are, some of us live paycheck to paycheck, so we can't go out and do a massive shop or stock up on pantry items like everyone else can. So, it's not really for anyone to judge, our shopping schedule, for example. So if we're being locked down, our human rights our basic human rights are being stripped from us.
Now, this lockdown only affects Melbourne and one other area, but the whole of the state of Victoria has been sealed off from its neighbours. Its border with New South Wales is shut for the first time since the Spanish flu. That's over 100 years ago. That means 55 ground crossings, 4 major highways, 33 bridges and 2 waterways are all being monitored by police, troops and drones. South Australia has also closed its border. Only those deemed essential workers are being allowed to come in from Victoria, and if they do, they'll have to quarantine for 14 days. Now, the context here is that Australia has done relatively well in restricting the virus. It has more than 8,500 cases, just over 100 people have died, and almost all the new cases now are in Victoria. You can see from this graph that new cases are accelerating and in fact are past their previous peak in March. Also a concern is that 90% of cases are coming from within the community. Initially, most cases were from travellers arriving from overseas, not anymore. It's thought the surge in this case is connected to breaches of hotel quarantines. Now, this next bit of information is very important. More than 20,000 people have gone through a 14-day isolation in hotels in Victoria after arriving in the state. This was one of the hotels in question. One investigation points to the virus spreading from security guards working at them to those guards' families. We've also seen several international reports, like this one in the Times in London, suggesting some security contractors were having sex with guests and that families were allowed to go between rooms, though we're not able to confirm those claims. Other experts argue that actually COVID-19 was already in the community. We've talked before, an outside source, about how meat processing plants had been infection hotspots elsewhere in the world. This Guardian reports that an abattoir in West Melbourne was linked to more than 100 cases, and that was all the way back in May. Well, whatever the reasons, case numbers are going up, and so is the pressure on the state government. Look at this ABC article. It's scathing. It says, unlike other political scandals, the failures of quarantine are directly affecting hundreds of thousands of people, more than 310,000 to be precise. But the state premier has a different analysis.
I think a sense of complacency has crept into us as we let our frustrations get the better of us. I think that each of us knows someone who has not been following the rules as well as they should have. I think each of us know that we've got no choice. but to take these very, very difficult steps.
Next, let me play the thoughts of the BBC's Australia correspondent, Shaima Khalil.
He was referring to family members, for example, who weren't feeling well, who were testing for COVID-19 and hadn't waited for the results and socialized with a large number of people only to come back positive and spread the virus. So I think it's a reminder really for the rest of the country who has so far fared better than many other countries around the world that this could happen anywhere else if people are not careful.
And finally, in foreign news, days of heavy rain have swollen rivers and triggered mudslides across China and Japan. Dozens of people have died in the flooding and millions have been told to leave their homes. We monitored Al Jazeera for this story.
Some of the heaviest rain in decades has battered Hubei province in China. On the outskirts of Huanggang City, rescue workers dig through landslide debris. In central, southwest and eastern China, rescue teams have evacuated people trapped by rising floodwaters in cities, towns and villages.
Because the water is so deep, we have asked the brigade to help transfer residents by rubber boats.
Dams and riverbanks are being reinforced. Further to the east, heavy rain has continued to pound Japan, causing flooding and landslides. It's uprooted trees and downed electricity pylons, making some roads impassable. Water levels in many areas remain high.
Even though it may have stopped raining, there are many things to be worried about, whether there could be mudslide happening here as well. I was wondering, how long will this continue?
The worst hit areas of Japan are on the southwest island of Kyushu, which has seen the highest number of casualties. More than 1 million people on Japan's third largest island have been advised to seek temporary shelter and stay with friends or relatives where possible to avoid overcrowding at emergency centres. Health workers say basic measures to prevent coronavirus from spreading in the crowded conditions seem to be working.
The fact there have been no coronavirus patients in this area proves that we are doing the best we can.
Weather experts are warning more heavy rain is expected over much of Japan. Florence Louis, Al Jazeera.
And that story concludes this broadcast of the Kopala TV main news, but before we leave, a recap of the headlines. NDC challenges government to tell the nation what agreement they have made with Mopani Copper Mines. ZCID condemns political parties' intolerance behavior. JCTR appeals to government to ensure social protection programs are scaled up. And in foreign news, coronavirus in Australia, Melbourne returns to lockdown as cases surge. Thank you for joining us. My name is Monze Mwinga. Stay tuned.
You're